What is up, everybody? Welcome back to youtube.com/DyllonKG, the channel where you learn to become a better Dead by Daylight player and keep up to date on the newest news and conversations. Today we're talking about the 4.1.0 mid-chapter update, the death of our beloved Hillbilly as we know him, and some changes to Cannibal. Let's dive into those patch notes. Don't forget, if you guys like what you see, head on over to twitch.tv/DyllonKG, where we will be messing around with these changes live today to see if they're any good or any bad. Let's see if we can get 4Ks with Billy now that he's broken in bottom tier. I think he'll actually be fine, but check us out. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start with balance changes to both the Cannibal and to Hillbilly. We are going to talk about this a little bit because those are the biggest things that people want to know about regarding this mid-chapter update. So we'll start with Hillbilly, considering he's getting the biggest hit. Hillbilly is somebody we all know as a staple of the game. He's one of the first three that we see on all the iconography, but this is going to be the first time he's had a very significant change to his kit in a very long time. So he's having an overheat mechanic added to his chainsaw. So using the chainsaw will now build up heat. When reaching the maximum amount of heat, the chainsaw overheats and cannot be used until it is cooled off. Here are the numbers for that if you're that kind of player. The chainsaw heat meter starts at 0. Starting a rev adds 5 charges, actively revving adds 8 charges per second, and actively sprinting adds 2 charges per second. So when not using the chainsaw, the heat meter dissipates at a rate of -5 charges per second, and when the chainsaw overheats, the heat meter dissipates at a rate of -6.6 charges. So if the heat meter reaches 100 charges, the chainsaw overheats. So you have to kind of think, starting a rev adds 5, and then actively revving adds 8 charges per second. In theory, you could feather your chainsaw for about 10 to 15 seconds, even just lightly feathering it, before you actually sprint and get a short distance with it. So this is actually a very interesting mechanical change. I don't think it's as big a deal as a lot of people make it sound. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments below. If the chainsaw overheats during a chainsaw sprint, the sprint is not interrupted, and the chainsaw goes through a cooldown phase after the sprint has ended. So again, these aren't really huge nerfs to Hillbilly. I don't believe, right? He can end his sprint and continue chasing people. It just cools down, right? So again, the fact that you can hold the chainsaw rev for 10 seconds, if you're great at feathering, then you can hold it, for a little bit longer. 10 seconds is a lot. If you need to rev your chainsaw to pressure somebody for 10 seconds, I don't know. Let me know, again, down below. There are add-on updates that you guys can check out. We are not going to go through all of those because there are so many, but that's going to change a lot of his kit and his build. You guys will be able to see that. Now let's go up to Cannibal, who is getting quite a bit of change. Cannibal has been kind of seen as the killer that is just used for camping. And as they say here, the Cannibal was one of our less popular killers, so we're pushing to lessen some of the character's weaknesses while chasing survivors. Cannibal players will see a higher skill ceiling and new ways to master the power. And I like this addition to the killers in the game, right? The idea that killers have a skill ceiling. They have, you can hop in and you can play them, but to learn them and master when to use your ability, when to extend your ability, stuff like that, I really love these changes. Let's look at the power changes. They added a chainsaw sweep charge, a la Nurse's Blink. Think about Nurse's Blink and how you have 2 charges on it. This will be the same thing. Using the chainsaw will consume a charge and trigger a chainsaw sweep. During this time, the Cannibal can extend the chainsaw sweep by pressing the power button before the power bar fully depletes. The more charges are used, the longer the miss or cooldown tantrum /tantrum will be, right? So at this point, right, if you use it once and you hit somebody, you don't need to use the extra charges. If you need to extend the sweep and keep going, if you need to go for multiple people or just extend your time, you can do that. That's a choice you have to make in the moment to see if you can hit that person. However, extending the chainsaw sweep also means that you have a much longer cooldown. So I like this. It seems balanced. It seems easy. I don't know if this is going to make Cannibal a more popular killer, really, but we will see. The numbers, we'll talk about that. The Cannibal starts with 3 charges. Triggering the chainsaw will start a chainsaw sweep that lasts 2 seconds. During the sweep, each charge used after that will reset the chainsaw sweep timer back to 2 seconds. Each additional charge used increases the missed chainsaw attack cooldown tantrum duration by 1 second. So you could have up to a 3-second cooldown. So that's a pretty big deal, right? Charges refill at a rate of 1 charge every 4 seconds when the chainsaw is not being used. So again, you have to be a really conservative 4 seconds. If you get into a chase and you use all of it, you have to wait roughly about 12 seconds is what this looks like. The Cannibal's maximum speed during a chainsaw sweep was increased to 5.29 meters a second from 5.06. As we know, he was faster than survivors before, but he had a hard time catching them if there was like any distance when he started the ability. This is going to allow him to close the gap a lot sooner and entice you to use those more charges, but you have to gauge whether using the charges is worth it, again, because of the recovery rate of the charges and the potential of an up to a 3-second cooldown. So also, if the Cannibal revs the chainsaw for too long, a tantrum's automatically triggered for 5 seconds. So again, a slight overheat mechanic, very similar to Hillbilly. So and then when a tantrum is triggered, all the charges are consumed, which means if a tantrum happens, which is when you hit an item, a piece of the world, or if you overcharge, you lose all of your charges. So there's just a lot more play in mastering his ability. Again, I hope that people want to play Cannibal, but I don't see this really changing people wanting to play Cannibal. Of course, there are add-ons that were changed with him that completely complement his kit now. If you guys want to look at that, definitely go to the forums here. Now, we are going to talk about real quick the aura rework. They say, and I quote, refactored the aura system on a technical level to make sure the system is easier to maintain and less prone to bugs in the future. Visuals for the refactor were changed to support the new refactor. Functionally, the system has not been significantly changed. However, the appearance of auras is noticeably different. They also added a promo code system to the store. So social media and things like that, I imagine Fog Whispers are going to get a promo code system and killer selection. Killers can no longer change characters while searching for a match in a lobby, excluding, obviously, custom matches. This will soon be used by a new matchmaking system to provide better match balance based on your skill, with each killer individually instead of a global killer rating. So, again, this is going to be something, I noticed this in the PTB, once you ready up and you're searching for a match, you will not be able to change your killer. You won't be able to spend blood points on a different killer and then swap back, because the matchmaking soon will actively take into account your proficiency with a particular killer. If you never play Clown or Nurse, and you're rank 1, well, you're going to be playing against potentially much lower rank individuals because your Nurse proficiency or your Clown proficiency is not very good, as opposed to your proficiency with, I don't know, Spirit, Freddy, Pyramid Head, whoever you like to play. So if you guys didn't know, perks are getting updated. Franklin's Demise, Knockout, Lightborn, and Tinkerer are all getting changed. You can see those changes right here. Franklin's Demise will actually consume items if they're left on the ground for too long. Knockout does a lot to slow down people who are normally crawling. Lightborn makes you invincible to flashlights. And then Tinkerer is a 70% instead of 85%, with a longer undetectable range. Obviously, you can see these perk changes right here on the forum. There are some bug fixes. Let's go through those real quick. So Hillbilly got a little bit of a change here that caused him to not go into stun animation. This happens all the time. If you let go of the button right as you hit a wall, you just will stand there and you're locked for a few seconds. Cannibal, they changed it so that the chainsaw sound effect doesn't continue playing while stunned while performing a chainsaw sweep. So if you were sweeping and they pallet stunned you, the chainsaw would just keep playing until you re-revved it. Fixed that. We've seen this before, and we'll see if this happens again. They fixed an issue that prevented entering Blood Fury if the power meter was filled while carrying a survivor, and they fixed an issue that caused survivors to drop twice the amount of blood orbs when performing actions while injured. But the Oni doesn't seem actually fixed in regards to not being able to use his ability if it passively recharges. We've seen that before, where the button basically gets stuck and you can't hit your left control to activate ability. It just tells you to keep absorbing blood orbs even though you can't. So very weird stuff going on there. And then some changes to perks, survivors, maps. Most of these things aren't things that I see often. You may want to check those out if you're interested in those changes, those bug fixes. There are some UI changes as well. They actually made it so that the 1440p players and higher are getting the smaller UI. I wish they would make a UI slider, but we will talk about that in another video, I'm sure. The increased UI scale now only affects people using straight up 4K resolutions. Again, I just wish they would make a slider. It doesn't seem like it would be that difficult, but I don't make video games. So, and then they made some changes from the PTB. Again, you can check all of this stuff here. What do you guys think, though? Is Billy done for? I don't think Billy's done for. I think Billy's going to be fine. I think Cannibal's still not going to get played often, and I'm waiting for a Spirit debuff. And I'm a killer main. So anyway, let's see what you guys think. Of course, check out our Twitch stream later today, and we'll see you guys in the next video. I pray to the entity to see you in the next video.